Right, lesson 15. And our objective today is we will be able to relate arrays to tape diagrams to model the commutative property of multiplication. So Miss Kellogg went over commutative property, I think it was last week or the week before, with 2s and 3s. And remember, the commutative property says that if you can multiply numbers in any order and the answer will always be the same. So if I had 2 times 3 equals 6, the commutative property says if I flip these and I do 3 times 2, the answer is still what? 6. So this is the commutative property. Even though I flipped these factors, the answer is still the same. So that's just a fancy term for that. We're going to be working with arrays today. We know what those are. And we're going to be working with tape diagrams. All right. And we're going to be focusing on fours, factors of 4. Before we get started on our application problem, I thought it would be fun for us to just do a little skip counting review to help us solve for each of these problems. So the first one is 5 times 4. So we're going to skip count 5 times by 4. You ready? We're going to use our fingers. So everybody get a fist and let's skip count by 4s. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. So 5 times 4 equals 20. All right, now let's skip count by 4s again, but we're only going to skip count it 4 times. All right, here we go. Everybody take a fist. 4, 8, 12, 16. So 4 times 4 is 16. All right, let's do our application problem. And if you would like to do this with me, that would be awesome. I saw some of your guys' pictures last week and my students in my class, and you guys took some pictures of the application problem. So I knew you did it with me, and I thought that was great. I really liked seeing that. So it's on page, hold on. It's on page 91. Page 91. Okay, I'll put it up here. So if you want to pause it and get your book, you can do that now. All right, let's read the question. So we read, we draw, and then we write. So we draw to solve it, right? A cell phone is about 4 inches long. So it's 4 inches long. I'm going to circle that because I know that 4 is an important number and I need to remember to use that in my equation. About how long are 9 cell phones laid end to end? So I circled 9 too because I know that's probably my other factor that I want to use in my equation. My question is, I'm going to underline this, about how long are 9 cell phones laid end to end? So what are they asking? Well, it sounds like they're asking for the total. So we don't know what the total is right now. We have 2 factors here. We have 4 and 9. So since I don't know my total, I know that I'm going to have to multiply, right? Because I have 9 groups or 9 cell phones, and each cell phone or the number or the size of the group, right? The size of each cell phone is 4 inches. Okay, so we're going to do 9 times 4. And for me to figure this out, I think I'm going to do a tape diagram. Okay, so I have how many? What is the number of groups? I have 9 groups, right? So I'm going to do 9 groups in my tape diagram. So remember, if I need to figure out how many lines to draw, because I know the number of groups, I'm going to go 9 and I'm going to take 1 away, and that gives me 8. That means I'm going to draw 8 lines in my tape diagram. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hey, that looks pretty good. All right, and the size of the cell phones, this is the size of the group, right? Size of the cell phone is 4. So each of these is a cell phone. So I'm going to put 4 in each of these squares. So I know this. What does this represent? This represents the size of the cell phone, right? Or the size of the group. This, what does this represent? It represents 2 things, right? Represents the total, which do we know the total? We do not yet. And it also represents the number of groups. And we do know that. We know that we have 9 groups. So let's skip count by 4s to figure out what the total is. 4, 8, 12, do it with me. 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36. So my answer is 36. So I read it, I drew my problem to solve. Now I'm gonna write a sentence. And I have no room. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to write it up on top, and that's okay. So it said, the question was about how long are 9 cell phones laid end to end? So the length of the cell phones all together, keyword there, all together is 36. But what unit are we using? Inches. 36 inches. All right, my sweets, we did the application problem. Great job. Okay, let's dive into our lesson now. So let's go back to this. We need to draw an array. We also need to draw a tape diagram, and we have to show the commutative property. So we're gonna flip the factors, and you're gonna show me that in your work today too, okay? Okay, so this one says, draw an array with 2 rows and 4 columns above the fold. So this is a pretend fold right here, above our folded paper. So up here, I'm gonna draw 2 rows of 4 columns. And I just want you guys to watch right now, so you don't have to do any of this. So just watch. If I'm going too fast, as always, I want you to pause the video. So I know I'm gonna have 2 rows, right? I'm gonna go ahead and draw 2 dots, which is gonna represent 1 row and 2 rows. I know that I have 4 columns. That means that I have 4 dots in each row. So I already have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Does this show 2 rows of 4 columns? Yeah, because I have 1 column, 2 columns, 3 columns, 4 columns. And I have 2 rows. So I did that right. Check. Now I need to use the commutative property, right? So that's that. We're just going to flip the order of the numbers, and it's still going to give us the same answer. And we're going to write 2 multiplication equations for this array. So this is my first equation here. I know it's 2 rows of 4. So what would be my multiplication sentence for this? Think about that. What would it be? Well, I have 2 rows, so 2 rows times, how many were in each row? 4 equals, what's my total? Well, let's skip count. Ready? 4, 8. 2 times 4 equals 8. Now I'm going to flip my equation. I am going to change my factors. I'm going to flip them. This is going to show the commutative property. So now it's going to be 4 columns times 2 in each column equals, what does this equal? Still equals 8. So see how that is the same equation, the factors are just flipped. And that's all commutative property means, because the totals never change. They are always the same. Okay, now it wants me to draw a tape diagram to match each equation. So do you think my tape diagram is going to look the same for this one and for this one? Nope, it's not, right? It's going to look totally different because I'm going to have a different number of groups. So how many groups do I have here? I have 2 groups, so I'm going to draw 2 groups. How many are in each group? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now, so there's our first one. Now we're going to show a tape diagram for 4 groups of 2. So I'm going to draw 4. So if I have to draw 4 boxes, I'm going to use my fingers. I'm going to take, so I can figure out how many lines I need to draw. Taking 1 away, that means I have to draw 3 lines. So 1, 2, 3. And how many are in each group? Oh, well, there's 2 in each group, so I need to draw 2 dots in each group. Ta-da! So that is what we are doing today. Let's do one more together. And then this one shows it. So I'm going to do it on my whiteboard, actually. Because I want to try and do this with you guys. Okay, we're going to draw an array that is 4 rows of 9 columns. You guys see that? 4 rows of 9 columns. So first thing I need to do is I need to draw my array for this. So I know I have 4 rows. So I'm going to draw 4 dots. 1, 2, 3, 4. I like to draw lines just so I know that this is representing a row. And that just helps me to keep my, my dots in order. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. I know that how many columns am I going to have in total? I'm going to have 9 columns. So 1, I already have 1 column. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ooh, these are a lot of dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Whew, there's my second row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Whew, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so I have my array for 4 rows of 9 columns. Now I'm going to use the commutative property again, and I'm going to write 2 different equations, 2 different multiplication equations for this array. So here I know it's 4 times what? 9 equals, do we know the total yet? Well, we haven't skip counted. So why don't we skip count by 4s to figure out the total? We're going to skip count the columns. Okay, so we have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36. Whew. So 4 times 9 equals 36. Now we need to draw the flip of those factors. So we're going to flip the factors. What is it going to be? It's going to be 9 times 4 equals, is it still the same answer? Always. In the commutative property, it's always the same. Now, so we wrote our 2 equations. Now we're going to draw a tape diagram for this. So we're going to do, this first one is 4 groups with 9 in each group. So I'm going to draw a tape diagram. If I'm doing 4 groups, how many lines am I going to put? 3. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to have how many dots in each group? 9. Ooh, that's going to be a lot of dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9. 9. Whew, that was a lot. Okay, so now I drew my tape diagram, right? This represents the size of the group. This represents the total. It also represents the number of groups. All right, now I'm going to do it for 9 times 4. So if I'm doing it for 9 times 4, how many groups am I doing this time? I'm not doing 4, right? I'm gonna do, on my snap, 9 groups. So if I know I'm gonna have 9 groups, I'm gonna put my fingers up. Okay, I'm gonna take one away. I'm gonna do 8 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ooh, I didn't the box. 8. Okay, how many are in each box, in each group? The sizes? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ooh, this is taking a long time. Okay. So now we're gonna label it. What does this represent here? This represents the size of the group, right? We have 4 in this one square. This whole thing represents what? Not only the total, which is 36, but it also represents the number of groups. Can you guys see that? Oh, let me put it up a little bit. There you go. So it also represents the number of groups and the total. Okay, so this is what we're doing today. Really cool, fun stuff. I brought my eraser. Erase. Now it's gonna be your turn. So you need to pause the video, get your whiteboard, get your marker, your Expo marker, and your eraser. All right. The first one we're gonna do is 5 times 4. So I want you to draw an array for 5 times 4. And then I also want you to draw 2 equations that for each array. So you're going to do your commutative property. You're gonna draw this 5 times 4, and what's the other one? I'm not gonna tell you yet. And then you're gonna do a tape diagram for each multiplication equation. So I think we're only gonna do one today because this video is taking a little bit longer than usual. So we'll just practice one time and I'll let you guys do your independent work. So pause the video and see if you get it right. Okay, so we are doing an array for 5 times 4, or 5 rows of 4 columns, okay? So your array should look like this. I know that I have 5 groups, right? Or 5 rows. Your array should look like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you're gonna have 4 columns, or 4 in each row. So your array should look just like this. You have 5 rows, and 4 in each row. Now, next thing you should have done is you should have written your commutative property. So you're gonna write 2 equations for this question. So the 2 equations that you should have written down, and if you haven't yet, you haven't gotten this far, that's okay. Pause the video and do it. I'm gonna do some blanks here. If you have, you should have gotten this. 5 times 4 equals, let's skip count by 4s. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Or you could have counted up all the dots too, right? To help you, just to check to make sure you got it right. And you should have flipped those factors, and your second equation should have been 4 times 5 equals 20. So those are the 2 equations that you should have gotten. Now you should have also drawn a tape diagram for each of these. So this one was 5 groups of 4. So 5 groups that we're gonna put 5 fingers up, we're gonna draw 4 lines. And you should have 4 in each group. And then your tape diagram for 4 times 5, I did that one wrong, I'm sorry. You should have had 5 groups, not 4 groups, 5 groups of 4. And then this one is how many groups? 4 groups. So I have 4 groups. So I figured out that if I have 4 groups, I need to draw 3 lines in my tape diagram. So 1, 2, 3. And how many do I have in each group? I have 5. So you should have put 5 dots in each box. Ta-da! So hopefully this is what yours looks like. If you want to challenge yourself and do another one before you do your independent work, that one will be 4 times 7. Okay, let's see what we're doing today. On your independent work, you are going to be doing page 93. So this is exactly what we just did, okay? On this first one, they gave you the commutative multiplication sentence for each of these. So they flipped it for you. You just have to solve. Each problem just gets progressively a little bit harder where you have to fill in more information. Don't forget that you need to draw an array as well for each of these problems. That's part of the direction, is to label the tape diagram, complete the equations, and draw an array, just like we just practiced. And then you'll do page 94. And it looks like each of these you guys can do. Yep. Looks good. All right, so 93 and 94. Good luck, my sweets.